Hello, I'm Alison Tiemann, and I'm currently suing the Calgary Expo for breach of contract and the Mary Sue for injurious falsehood. I was evicted from the Calgary Comics and Entertainment Expo put on by the Calgary Expo in April of 2015. The allegations put forward by the Calgary Expo to justify this expulsion were that I breached my contract by harassing panelists at a panel titled Women into Comics. The panel audio can be listened to here. My contribution starts at the 18-minute and 30-second mark. A review of the audio reveals that I requested to speak to a topic the panelists brought up, and when the panelists wished to move on to other audience members who had their own commentary, I and my friend attending with me, Sage Gerard, complied. At all times, the panelists were in full control of the panel. There is absolutely no harassment. After the eviction, the Mary Sue published an article saying I was not just evicted due to harassing behavior at the panel, but I also lied on my contract by misrepresenting myself, so the Calgary Expo could not have known I would be attending under the company name Honey Badger Brigade. A scan of my contract provided to the court by the defendants' counsel is here, or in the low bar. Honey Badger Brigade is listed as my company name, and www.honeybadgerbrigade.com is listed as my company website. Both excuses for evicting me were false. The Mary Sue article was also based on malicious or reckless lies. Both parties had evidence of the false nature of the accusations from the day of the eviction and the day the article was published. During the course of our second court date, that is, last year, November 28th, 29th, and 30th, the defendants appeared to want to negotiate a settlement in good faith after I had concluded my second day of direct testimony. After we went back and forth for a month, I sent a message clearly stating my settlement terms. They replied with a threat that they would sue me for defamation over a 2-word tweet sent out by Brian Martinez, our producer, through his personal account saying, "We won," in response to hearing that they were willing to settle. The original tweet was fair comment. And it was not just fair comment, it was also removed when it became apparent that people were misinterpreting it, and Brian went out of his way to clarify any misinterpretation out of an abundance of caution. Any defamation suit launched over that tweet would be classified as vexatious litigation. Further, they are claiming I am responsible for any harm over a 2-word tweet that was itself fair comment and that was removed when it was being apparent it was being misinterpreted and was not made or authorized by me. And yet their malicious, reckless lies about my behavior at the expo and my business dealings remain uncorrected by them 2.5 years later. At this point, it is abundantly clear that they are not negotiating in good faith. I believe nothing but a judgment will end this. Even if I do settle, I get the sense I may be chasing after any settlement terms with them for years or longer, and I will not bow to threats, and I will not accept anything less than justice for myself and the community that has supported me in seeking that justice. When we contacted the court clerk, the Alberta Provincial Court clerk, for a continuance, they gave us potential dates in February of 2019. Harry Capito, our legal counsel, sent a polite request to the presiding judge that he consider doing what he could to move the dates earlier. The judge agreed. He didn't just shuffle the dates he was scheduled to appear at court around to make room for 3 days. He decided to come in during time he was not scheduled to appear at court. He decided to give up his days off to adjudicate this issue. When the defendants' counsel protested that the days fell over a statutory holiday in the United States, July 4th, Independence Day, the court rejected the defendants' counsel's objection and the dates were kept. The judge has moved our trial date from February of 2019 to July 3rd, 4th, and 5th of 2018. This action by the judge does not mean he's sympathetic to our side. It does not mean that we will win on all of our causes of action or even any of our causes of action. But it does mean that our judge is committed to seeing justice done in a timely manner and understands that justice delayed is justice denied. For that, I am very grateful. It is a kindness. Once again, I'm asking you for support in pursuing justice. You can do so at www.feedthebadger.com. And if you want to help us out on a long-term, ongoing basis, you can do so at www.patreon.com/honeybadgerradio. We wouldn't be able to maintain our show lineup throughout this entire arduous process of pursuing this legal case without the support of our patrons. Some of you, after I mentioned the situation with Brian, have chastised him for tweeting out the 2-word statement that led to the defendants in this case threatening a frivolous defamation suit. The truth is, he did me a favor. He did us all a favor. He gave the defendants the opportunity to grasp at straws and prove to me beyond a shadow of a doubt that they were negotiating in bad faith. They obviously don't care about the reality of what they did, its effect on me or our community. I don't even think they understand the gravity of their actions and how what they're doing, media lies and dehumanizing people who think differently than you, is unraveling our society. I'm not signing off on anything less than the truth. I'm not signing off on things that will make them look better than they deserve. Brian's actions compelled them to show their hand. And show it they did. This whole situation also forced me to confront something about myself. I lived in Saudi Arabia during the First and Second Gulf Wars. When I was 12, the compound I lived in, which was by a U.S. military base and munitions dump, was targeted for Scud attacks. I slept closest to the air raid sirens, so it was my responsibility to wake my family up and get us to our makeshift shelter in the kitchen, which was the most central room in our house. Our shelter was a mattress atop a table. It wouldn't have stopped a direct hit or even a close hit, or even a remote hit, but it would stop us from being torn to shreds by glass broken by a percussive wave. So at night, I would wake up when I heard the air raid siren in the distance, and I would get everybody else up and we would go down to our shelter. And then the Patriot missiles would start going off to defend, and it was a sound that was unbelievable. It wasn't a sound at all, more like you were being picked up and shaken. When I went to bed those days, I didn't know if I would wake up the next morning. But the funny thing is, throughout all of that, I don't remember being afraid. We had to consider the defendant's offer of settlement in good faith because we have to be reasonable. But there's another reason why I considered the settlement. Until the defendants made it clear they weren't negotiating in good faith, and the only way to get rid of them is through a judgment. I don't want to go back to trial. I don't want to go on the stand. I don't want to give more testimony. I don't want to be cross-examined. And even more than being in the courtroom, the testimony and the cross-examination is that night, that hour, that 5 minutes before the judge issues his judgment. It's the uncertainty of it, not knowing which way the ruling will go. That's what keeps me up at night. Will I disappoint the community by failing? Will I be judged to be in the wrong once again? Have I crossed all my T's and dotted all my I's? Have I prepared enough? What about all of those factors completely outside of my control? That uncertain moment before knowing the judgment terrifies me. A commentator, Nate Phil, says on my video, he left a comment on my video, how Cathy Newman won Professor Peterson. He says, I quote, "While I agree with you, in that case agreeing that men's vulnerabilities need to express it in order to control what's happening, if we show we are vulnerable, then we give up what makes us men. We will die before we do that." I get it, Phil, I do. Not knowing where you stand is a terrifying prospect, not knowing the outcome of a judgment on your worth, the uncertainty of it. It's maybe even scarier than death, the possibility of death. When you have certainty, when you know what it is to be a man, you know that if you keep denying your vulnerabilities, hiding them, ignoring them, there's comfort in that certainty. To refuse to deny your vulnerabilities, to acknowledge them and force others to do the same. You don't know which way the judgment will fall, and that's scary and painful. Since I did my 2 responses to Cathy Newman's interview of Jordan Peterson, there's been a lot of new people on the channel, and some of them have expressed confusion over what this channel actually is. Well, this channel isn't meant to be entertaining, although we try to lighten what we have to say with humor, otherwise it gets so black and bleak. It's not meant to be informative, although we endeavor to give good information and look at every side of these issues. No. This channel is a recruitment drive. I'm trying to find the men who can face the terror and pain and discomfort of uncertainty. And the women too, since there are aspects of the female identity we challenge as well. I'm trying to find men who can face not knowing and can continue on. Life goes on. You don't know if you're going to die tomorrow. Life goes on. Our identities are the way we elicit behaviors and habits in the individual that, in aggregate, support the healthy functioning of the society. If a society is fracturing and decaying, you have to go back to the source, the identity. You have to look at what's happening with our identities. This isn't identity politics. I'm not identifying a vulnerable group and saying society needs to serve them. I'm saying we need to look at how our currently structured identities that elicit currently structured habits serve or do not serve society. And where they don't serve society, we need to figure out how to fix it without compromising individual rights. Because we all rely on this thing called society, and it's a lot more fragile than you know. And all of that starts by finding men who can stand stepping out beyond their comfort zone, out of what's known, out into the world of the unknown. When I realized that I was entertaining settlement because I was afraid of uncertainty, I realized that I needed to walk into my fear and through it. I don't want to. I don't want to risk failing you all. I don't want to risk doing something wrong. I don't want to risk making a mistake. And a settlement takes all that risk away. To finish this trial, I have to face a judgment, terrifying in its uncertainty. To have a shot at making things better in the world, I have to find men who also have the strength of will to face an uncertain judgment of their worth. And I get it. It's scary, not knowing who you are, not knowing your place, having to face the possibility that the world is not your friend. It's so much easier to take the settlement. Just take it. But not taking it is what needs to get done. Anyway, if you want to help me get this done, www.feedthebadger.com. And if you want to help me make sure that we can continue to get the things done and find the men and women who can get the things done, www.patreon.com/honeybadgerradio. Thank you.